Well, this is Guns, Knives, and Watches. And I'm about to lose some subscribers. Why? Because the things I'm interested in are the same things they're interested in. Why is that? Because I have a background in understanding and intelligence. Not intelligence as far as how smart you are, but intelligence as far as understanding how you think, what you do, profiling, doing things like that. It's been a hobby. The things that I do appear to be the way they do it, but they're totally different. Where they do it out of fear, when they do it out of concern, I do it out of an educated point of view. Of course, they would say the exact same thing, but let's get into it. Albert Einstein came back and said one of his famous quotes that has been, repeated time after time after time. The only limit between genius and stupidity is there's no limit to stupidity. And I understand by taking the point of view in which I'm taking right now that I'm alienating. I'm not wrapping my arms around. And that's the point. The alienation of the people is the point of the video. Because they have to understand. And I'm sure I'll get some backlash and this, that, or the other. And people get off the channel and I don't give a shit. But let's talk about truthers. Truthers from 9/11, birthers, all of these moronic people who have these concepts that the government is wasting all of this time and his resources on trying to fuck with their lives or just manipulate them, which the government is trying to manipulate you, but it's trying to get you to calm the fuck down because there's a lot of shit on the horizon that is so bad that the last thing we want are a bunch of uneducated, stupid people running around, flailing their arms with their guns, because now after Sandy Hook, we've got a bunch of retardos that have never owned a gun or wanted a gun or this, that, or the other going out and buying stockpiles of these things. Now they're going to go shoot themselves in the foot. Which I think everybody ought to own a gun. I just think you ought to go to school first. I think you ought to go to some classes and learn how to safely operate the fucking gun. And if all your money's going into guns accessories, and bullets, and this, that, or the other, where is the money for training? I made a video on honey yesterday. 40 pounds of honey. A prepper's nightmare, man. A prepper's dream, sorry. It's also a professional chef's dream. It's also the highest grade honey that you can possibly, and imparts a taste on food that is extraordinary. A loaf of bread takes a half cup of honey. I'm not going to swear to that because that's not my area. That's Mrs. Guns, Knives, and Watches. I'm the heavy. What you see in front of you is a Spike's Tactical 10th anniversary, this, that, or the other. But the truthers, they want you to believe that they know that there's this conspiracy out there. And there are lots of conspiracies out there. I'm not going to say there aren't. There are conspiracies to kill you, this, that, or the other. And I'm going to give you some things that you need to probably think about and worry about and have some concerns over. And let's break them down. Let's talk about them. Well, if you take the way in which people live right now, the carrying capacity of the earth, that means the amount of people that it will actually sustain, your carbon footprint, is about 3.5 billion people, somewhere around there. And we can argue about that. The problem is there's 7.2 billion people on the planet, and that's an issue. Why is that an issue? It's an issue because that thing called a carbon footprint, the thing the truthers and the uneducated don't understand. And it's okay they don't understand. The world needs stupid people. We need those morons. Why do we need those morons? Because we need people to do shitty jobs. And the educated people and the smart people and the ones who are capable of running an economy and running a civilization need those people. Also, we need those people to create an opposite. Give something, because when civilizations are in that type of conflict, the United States, by the way, used to have a great threat, the Soviet Union. And God, things were clear then, because everybody knew who the enemy was. Soviet Union fell, this, that, or the other, and things got chaotic. Because there was no great two forces battling. So the truthers, even though they're idiots, even though they speak in science and they speak in fact and they speak in all of this stuff, they know nothing of it. And you can find a crazy son of a bitch in a population of anybody. That includes scientists. Because, they make pills for that. The human brain, unfortunately, is a very complicated thing. The neurochemistry, the this, the that, the events you go on in your fucking life. So, when we have these people who are spouting this stupid bullshit over and over and over, and you get enough of them spouting the same stupid bullshit, So what did I cover? I covered overpopulation, right? Well, let's talk about global warming. Wow. Because the truthers and the birthers and the uneducated and the whatever they are, man. They're just, I love these people, man. Because I need comedy in my life. And it's, the funny thing is I have no problem with dealing with death. I have no problem dealing with life. I have no problem dealing with anything. I've watched so many people die, it doesn't even matter anymore. When I was a kid, I watched two guys get their head cut off because they went under an 18-wheeler. 18-wheeler pulled in front of them. They didn't see it. Drove under it. Got their head cut off. Probably 8 or 9. Of course, at this time, I'd already seen people die. Let's don't go down that train track. I thought, that's terrible. But God, it's neat. See the heads laying there in their girlfriend's laps in the back seat, and they're freaking out because we had just rolled up on this accident. And one of their heads wasn't fully disconnected. So, hence, what do? I get a biology degree, specializing in animal biology. So I get to cut shit up all the time. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, man. Party on, dude. But you got global warming. And then you have that overpopulation. The problem is with the global warming thing, it's not only the fact that it's going to get hot because we can survive in any temperature, okay? The problem is the food, the calories that actually food produces. And I'm not going to educate any of you on any of this shit because, listen, go to fucking college. If you didn't go to college, listen to someone who did. If you don't know this, There are these libraries out there that are called science libraries. They are operated by schools to educate scientists. They don't have copies of, Harry Potter. They don't do any of that shit. It boggles my fucking mind that people don't know this. Because this is something that I was raised in inherently. Because, my dad was off doing his shit. He didn't raise me. Mom was toast. So I got a fascination in science and computers. Because my dad did buy me a computer. And he bought me a few computers. Then my brother, he bought me a computer when Dad was checked out. So I thank them. But the global warming is going to create superstorms. Hey, we have superstorms. Humanity has never existed on the planet with 2 degrees up in Celsius. So what, man? Hey, man, rocket up 5 degrees, man. We gonna live in the desert? Well, yeah, man. We terraform. Yeah, rock and roll party on. Yeah. Let's screw things up some more. Woo, yeah. Problem is, man, when you have overpopulation, you have global warming. The two go together. Okay? Now, let's talk about some other shit. We did overpopulation. We did global warming. Let's talk about, we live in an electronic age which has never existed previously. And we have a sun that puts out, EMF frequencies that will just fucking blow your mind. X-rays, gamma rays, da 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 da. And then we've got these things up there called satellites. And we've got all of this wireless, infrastructure, communications, da da da. I'm not saying the sun's going to erupt and destroy everything and this, that, or the other, but I mean, it's a possibility in our lifetime. That's something real, okay? The government planning on blowing up the World Trade Center, Obama being born in Africa, the people thinking that Sandy Hook was what do they call these things? False flags. I mean, these people are whacked out of their fucking gourd. One of the reasons I prep are to fight against preppers and ignorance. And because I understand that once everyone gets a clue on what really global warming is, because people start dying, and they start dying a lot wholesale, then the price of shit's going to go up. That's where the silver comes from. That's where the food comes from. That's where the commodities and the things that I use come from. It's an investment. It's a hedge against inflation, taxation, and this, that, or the other, because we're going to become heavily taxed. Because they're going to have to slow shit down to a point to where, we stop impacting the government and stop impacting the atmosphere and everything quite so much. And my part of the problem, oh hell yeah, baby. You realize the chemicals and the things and everything that are laying before you in this weapon. But you also have to understand the technology. And you can get that understanding, that very basic understanding about nickel metal hydride being having to be laid down and actually formed, where it's actually compresses the metal instead of putting it in tension and falling apart. You can get this very basic understanding, but the real understanding of the science behind it has to be learned and has to be taught, and it takes a long time to do it. Hell, wasting all that time in college, wasting all that time. In trade schools, wasting all that time, this, there, or the other. That's where the education comes from. Culinary schools. Let's talk about things that actually, So we got overpopulation, we've got global warming, we have the possible, in the electronic age that we live, the sun frying electrical circuits. There's 3 real things right there. The government doesn't give a shit about you, except for the fact that you vote, which they want to manipulate the vote. That's what political parties are for. That you work, because they don't want to support your ass. And if they have to support your ass, they're going to support your ass at a certain level so that you don't rebel. Because people who don't have food and do not have games, that means entertainment, rebel. So as long as they can keep you fed and keep you entertained, it's fucking, you're okay. They're okay. This is a concept that is taught to every generation of people who lead. And you've got so many people now. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about peak oil. Cool, let's do that, man. I'm going to ask a question. If there's so much fucking oil in Saudi Arabia, why is Saudi Arabia doing offshore drilling? To keep up with demand. That's just a thought, I got a better one for you. How about things they don't talk about? Not carbon dioxide and global warming and this, that, or the other. Let's talk about methane. Let's talk about the fact that we have large frozen methane pockets in the oceans. And how methane is so much more worse than carbon dioxide. And I would tell you some exact numbers, but I don't think that, that it matters. It's bad. And it'll fry our atmosphere that quick. How about the permafrost? The methane that's locked in permafrost. Let's talk about a lot of different biofeedback systems that have worked and have given us this life, this ability to have life, to multiply the way in which we have, to use our resources, to mine our world. And then that's all going to change. Let's talk about GMO crops and fast food and people's diets and the way people are living that are increasing the rates of autism, cancer, everything else. Where we have gone from a civilization and a society that pays less for food than any other in the history of man, to a society that pays more for health care than any other in the history of man. And is there a direct correlation? There are a lot of things for you to worry about in the world. And everybody wants to talk about these false flag events and this, there, the other, and da 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 da. And that's all cool, because we need those people. They have to keep the stupid occupied. Because even though it seems as though it's counterproductive, and it is in a lot of different ways, because as Einstein said, remember back, the only difference between genius and stupidity is there's no limit to stupidity. People talk about the cure for cancer. Which type What kind? There's not one cancer. There's not one this. There's not one that. I mean, anybody that thinks that there is a cure, trust me, they'd be selling it to your ass, and they'd be selling it to you very expensively. Yeah, we'll cure your cancer. $250,000. Rock out. We'll let you rock out with your cock out. Party on. Live a long life. It's true the healthcare system basically makes more money on failure than they do on success. But there's so much for me to talk about in this video that I go from point to point to point to point to point. The truthers, the this, that, or the other, even though, and I might have just said this a minute ago, they are a bad influence on society. And stupidity, well, we know what stupidity is. They're still a form of entertainment. They still keep you occupied. They keep you as occupied as the Kardashians, as the this, as the that, as anything else. And I wouldn't recognize a Kardashian if they were standing in front of me. If they came on the television. Now, who I would recognize was Bruce Jenner. Because he was a person who actually accomplished something. Kardashians, all they do is make money off the stupid. Which that's a job too. And then they deserve props for that. So just understand, this may seem as though I am one thing when I am very much different than. But I have to understand the psyche of them, and I have to understand the psyche of this and that, and da 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 da. And you don't have to be some radical ass son of a bitch to be prepared in your life for the events that are going to happen to you. Especially if you're like me and you go to places where people die all the time. Let's talk about Ebola. It's a conspiracy. Ebola, man, we need to close down the borders. The only problem is, and they're going to weaponize it and they're going to kill us all. Yeah, that's what I want to weaponize. I want to take a bug that if you put someone with Ebola in the house, and you had 7 people in that house other than them, you had only a 1 in 7 chance locked in a house with Ebola that you'll get it. Sure. That's a super bug. That's like AIDS. Bugs, to be successful, can't kill their hosts. Because if they do kill their hosts, they lose their ability to reproduce. That's why AIDS, this, that, or the other, and bugs that are successful, they don't do that. Bugs that do kill all their hosts, they're not successful, and we call them eradicated. Biochemical terrorism is an advanced science. By advanced, I mean you couldn't have been taught biology when I was taught biology and be successful at it. Because you're running, you're doing a lot of tests and a lot of things that were hypothetical. We never even, when I went to college for the first time, now this is not the second time, but the first time, had never gone through the human genome. The Human Genome Project was just kicking off, okay? And when you sit back and, and all this stuff, and you get all these people talking to you, and you get so many different, and they're telling you this, and they're telling you that, and da-da-da-da, and it starts to seem real. Because you don't know. Because they seem like experts. They seem like professionals. They seem like this, that, or the other. That's why I don't ever try to do that. I try to seem like a dumbass on video who's just, wasting time. When there's a lot of really good information there, but I'm not trying to sell you anything. Sure as hell not trying to sell you me. Because my reality makes most people's fantasy look like, well, like a yawn. This is Guns, Knives, and Watches. If you want to get to the bottom of this, you want to understand, you want to do any of these things, you have to get the concept of reality and what is reality and what isn't. Because people want to talk about, reality is stranger than the truth. And it's stranger than what these people are coming up with. But it's not some government conspiracy against them as individuals unless they're conspiring against the government. Because there's a lot of people who are conspiring against you. The people that make fast food, that's a science, folks. It's a science to kick in your genes and to make you eat this shit and want it and desire it and kill you with it. They don't want to kill you with it. They want to make money from you. But that's the science of it. That's conspiracy. They're conspiring, they're triggering your genes and your genetic code to want and desire and need this shit. You've got, Monsanto who wants to own a genetic this, there, and the other, and then we have a court system that allows them to patent a living organism. I mean, how fucked up is that? Anyway, this is Guns, Knives, and Watches, and I think this is my rant for the morning. I really hate being me on video. I honestly do. Because I'm so utterly controversial. Because I think most people are morons. And they can take my videos, which was what my rant has been about for about a year now almost, and misconstrue them into something they're not. Or try to get some understanding of government procedure and black ops or corporations. Which you won't. Because the truth is way more boring than anything you want to put on some fucking movie. Life ain't 24, boys and girls. One guy goes, I don't know if you're friend or foe, but you say some really unique shit. I say some really unique shit because I live. I live in the real world. Where black ops is in front of your face every fucking day. And the reason it's called black is because you don't see it. I live in a world where gangsters exist. Where organized crime is a problem. I live in a world where small arms and light weapons kill more people than big bombs. I live in a world where when the 9/11 attacks happened, I sit back and go, damn, it took them long enough. Because those people are way undereducated, way overfunded for what they, this, that, or the other, because we're hyper-arming the Middle East because we're, buying all their oil and crap. And go, how do we stop the next one? Because there will be a next one. There always is a next one. Yeah. Go to Israel. Hang out there. These people have been fighting for a long time. And they got nothing to fight over but some fucking place in the sand. this, that, or the other. But they're taking over Europe now, and they got some new stuff. Oh, Lord. Funny, funny, funny. Just remember one thing, and I'm going to say it for the third time. The only limit between genius and stupidity is there is a limit to genius. This is Guns, Knives, and Watches. Peace out.